Alright, so this is a quick tutorial on how to do the epoxy on the signs. First step is when you lay the sign down, prop it up a little bit, and then you want to check both sides for level and adjust it as necessary. I have a couple popsicle sticks under some of these here to adjust the level. Then you're going to take your 2-part epoxy. I sell these cups that have measurements on them, makes it a little easier. I buy them in a 50-pack. I bought some of these off Amazon for mixing. You don't want to go too fast, just a little bit. Speeds up the mixing time, makes it a lot easier. And then about 100 pack of these foam brushes just to kind of move the epoxy around. So you're going to have a part A and a part B of the epoxy. They're 1 for 1. So on this one I'm going to do probably about maybe 4 or 5 ounces. I'll do 6 just to make it safe. So 3 of each. Alright, so I like to start with part B first because it's thinner. I'm going to pour in 3 ounces. Cap that off. And part A is extremely thick. But I'm going to do 3 ounces of that until I get to the 6 ounce mark. Okay. Alright. Cap this. Move them out of the way. And I'm going to use this to mix. And you pretty much just mix it thoroughly, not too fast, until you get some decent sized bubbles in there. Part of the process is there's going to be bubbles throughout this whole process that we try to get out. Nothing crazy, just a little heat will get them. Just go on the sides, make sure you're getting it mixed good. Alright. Just kind of set the drill off to the side here so that it kind of just trips over there. But next, what you're going to do is kind of pour over everything. I try to start at the highest layer first. May as well put the strip on top of here. I try to start at the highest layer first. Turn the light on. And then you kind of mix it around. So you just slowly try to pour it to where it's even. And try to do the outside edges first. Oops. And then I try to do a thin layer on the edges. It's important with your design. I learned the hard way the first time that the more narrow the edges, the harder it is. So I added about a 1/2 inch bevel around the border for this sign. you kind of just move it around, try to coat everything. So the epoxy is self-leveling, so it will self-level as long as it's touching in places. So in this process, you're spreading it around, making sure that the entire sign is coated. So what I'll do is I'll spread it around the entire top first. You'll notice two things. As time goes by, the epoxy does generate some heat, especially in the cup, you'll notice. And then also it becomes less pliable, so it'll be thicker and harder to spread. So getting this part done quicker than not is more important. I'll kind of just show you what I'm doing here. Just kind of spreading it along the edges. And the entire surface. And the fact that it's self-leveling is why it's important to try and get the sign as level as possible at first. You will get some drips. It's not a huge deal. It's obviously better to try and not get drips over the edge as much as you can at the start, but you can always sand them off the back. They'll form hardened drips over time, but those can be sanded off with some 120 grit on the back side after. So once you think you have it completely coated, just give it a once over, and then you can kind of hit spots that may need more attention. But I try to work it as quickly as I can initially, and then get it after to make sure I get all the spots. One trick too is if you put it on a little thicker on top, you can pull it around the edges with the brush to make sure you're getting everything. And so I have a buddy in South Carolina who actually taught me how to do this. So I can't take full credit on just learning it myself. I did pick his brain a bit. King Designs on Facebook if you want to check him out. He makes some pretty awesome signs. He's in a military region in the U.S., so he's ex-military himself. So he makes a lot of commemorative signs, signifying ranks of service members and whatnot. But they are fantastic. And that's actually what got me to want to do it, seeing how nicely his turned out. So now that I think I have it completely coated, I'm going to want to do the second checks. And since it's glossy, you can use the light to your advantage and kind of look at different angles, just to make sure everything's coated. It'll be kind of easy to see spots where you didn't get it. Or spots where you may want to add a little more. Also, you don't want to pour more than a 1/4 inch thick with this specific tabletop epoxy at a time. So that's pretty important too to note. None of my signs that I've shown have anything that's significantly thick for the pour. Also, this stuff is pretty good at just keeping to the edge. You will get drips, like I said, but ultimately it does a pretty good job. Alright. So now I can measure over here. So I used all but about 1.5 ounces. So I did go a little heavy on the pre-mix. They do have silicone molds that you can get just to waste less, and you kind of just fill them up as you go. They're pretty cool. Different shapes of things. Alright, so now I want to see just if there's any spots that I want to maybe hit a little more. See if there's any spots that have a little bit less than what I want. Also maybe tap the edges a little bit. Alright. So I think I got it pretty good. I may not have yet, but the next step will kind of make it a little easier. So from here, I grab a propane torch, and you want to just do a light flame, something like that, and it's going to be pretty quick. So what we do is we're going to hit all the edges around first, and then just quickly move around it. And what this is going to do is it's going to remove a lot of these bubbles here to assist with the curing process. There will be more bubbles that come up almost immediately, but what we're going to do is we're going to torch it this time. In about 45 minutes, we'll torch it again, and then 45 minutes after that, we'll torch it a last time, and that should get it to where it's good to go. In about 4 hours or so, it'll be in a decent spot to the touch, but it takes, I think, 4 days for it to fully cure, about a day for it to cure well enough to touch it if need be. But, alright. Now you notice I did miss a spot. I don't know if you can tell, but right in here, it's a little lower. So what you can do to make it easy is just dip right on your brush and just pop a bit on there. We'll let it level out here real quick, and then we'll hit it with the torch again. Trying to quickly hit some of the spots that are maybe deeper pores. If you do use the torch a little too long, you will end up in a spot where the epoxy will smoke a little bit. So you want to make sure to avoid keeping it in one area for too long. And I did just spread a little bit of that out of one of these crevices to allow for it to be a thinner pour and allow for some of these bubbles to be removed a little better. Alright, so after the first torching, this is how it looks. And we'll be back in 45 minutes to do it again.